Behind the closed doors of Windsor's quietest mansion, two familiar names are living their final days under one roof, but not in the way anyone expected. Once inseparable, Andrew Windsor and Sarah Ferguson now wander the same house like strangers, surrounded by whispers, regret, and the ghosts of choices they can't undo. Inside Royal Lodge, tension fills the halls once meant for royalty. One spends long nights muttering in empty rooms, the other hides away in a private bar nicknamed the Doghouse, searching for comfort among staff and friends. It's the last chapter of a partnership that began in privilege and is now ending in silence. What really happened behind those locked doors, and what will become of them once the mansion's gates finally close for good? If you're ready to uncover the truth behind this downfall and the untold story of what drove them apart, hit subscribe and stay with us until the end. This one runs deeper than you think. There was a time when Andrew Windsor and Sarah Ferguson were the picture of royal redemption, divorced but oddly close, sharing a home and a strange sense of loyalty that defied expectations. For years, they managed to live quietly behind the grand facade of Royal Lodge, tucked deep inside Windsor Great Park. But that illusion began to crumble the moment the past came calling. When Andrew's long-buried connections resurfaced, everything changed. Invitations stopped. Doors that once opened easily were suddenly closed. Stripped of position, income, and influence, he retreated from the world, convinced the storm would pass. It didn't. Meanwhile, Sarah stood by him publicly, but privately, the weight of the scandals began to show. Her own reputation, already fragile from past missteps, took another hit. The couple who had once laughed off every headline now found themselves trapped by them. Inside Royal Lodge, the silence grew heavier each day. Staff who once served formal dinners now whispered about the tension in the halls. Two people who had once navigated royal life together were now living as exiles in the shadow of it. But the real unraveling wasn't about lost titles or fading luxury. It was about what came next, when the walls of privilege could no longer protect them. And what was happening inside the mansion was far stranger than anyone could imagine.
Royal Lodge might look peaceful from the outside, a perfect postcard of English serenity, but inside, it's a house split in two. Andrew Windsor and Sarah Ferguson live under the same roof, but on opposite ends of it, barely crossing paths except at mealtimes. To outsiders, it might sound civil, but behind those closed doors, it's anything but calm. Andrew spends most of his days wandering through echoing corridors, muttering under his breath. He avoids guests, avoids the phone, and rarely steps outside. Some say he's trapped in a loop of frustration, a man who once commanded attention, now speaking to the walls. Sarah, on the other hand, has created her own escape, a hidden corner of the estate known as the Doghouse. It's a small, private bar built behind the mansion, where she spends long evenings confiding in staff and close friends. It's there she vents her fears about the future, the press, and the growing uncertainty surrounding her life. Those who've seen her say she's become anxious and restless, always asking staff to stay late, as if she's afraid of being alone. And while the two still share meals, the conversations are tense about money, security, and where they'll go once the gates of Royal Lodge finally close to them for good. The mansion that once symbolized comfort and loyalty has become a cage of memories. But this uneasy routine was about to shatter because the time to leave was closer than either of them wanted to admit.
After years of quietly holding their ground inside Royal Lodge, the inevitable finally arrived, the order to leave. The property, once filled with royal history and family gatherings, was no longer theirs to keep. King Charles made it clear the lease would not stand, and just like that, the walls that had protected them for decades became temporary shelter. Andrew Windsor is set to move to the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, a quieter, more remote home, far from the reach of Windsor's familiar faces. For someone used to control, the move feels like exile. Friends say he's grown withdrawn, pacing through half-packed rooms, replaying old conversations, old mistakes, and wondering how it all slipped away. Sarah Ferguson's path looks different, but no less uncertain. She has no permanent home lined up, and whispers say she's struggling to decide where to go next. For someone who's spent years rebuilding her public image, the thought of starting over again feels almost unbearable. Yet even through the worry, she tries to stay close to her daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, who now play the role of peacekeepers between two parents living in emotional limbo. Their shared dinners have turned into strategy sessions: what to do next, how to survive without the support that once came easily. For the first time in decades, they're not surrounded by privilege, but by fear of what happens when it all runs out. The final days at Royal Lodge feel heavy. Boxes are stacked, rooms stand empty, and the silence between them says more than words ever could. But as they prepare to walk out those gates, one truth lingers: leaving the mansion won't erase what's chasing them, and what follows them into the outside world might be even darker than what they're leaving behind. Even as they prepare to leave Royal Lodge behind, the past refuses to stay quiet. Every few months, new headlines drag Andrew Windsor's name back into the spotlight, a reminder that the world hasn't forgotten. His connection to Jeffrey Epstein still haunts him, resurfacing in reports, letters, and investigations that never seem to end. Each mention chips away at what little piece remains inside the crumbling walls of his reputation. Sarah Ferguson feels it too. She's spoken to friends about dark forces, not as superstition, but as the weight of unseen pressure closing in. Her fear isn't just for herself, but for her daughters, who grew up under public scrutiny and now watch their parents unravel from a distance. To cope, she's built a small circle of loyal staff who stay with her late into the night, listening, reassuring, and trying to quiet the growing sense of dread that has settled around her. The tension between them isn't loud anymore. It's quiet, heavy, and constant. Andrew isolates himself, convinced that privacy is the only protection he has left. Sarah clings to routine, pouring drinks at the Doghouse while she plans a future that feels impossible to map out. The two still meet for meals, but the conversation always circles back to the same uneasy topics: safety, trust, and what they'll do when the last of their protection is gone. What's most unsettling isn't what they say, it's what they don't. The silence between them hides years of unspoken guilt, shared secrets, and regrets that neither can fully escape. They've lost their titles, their place in the royal circle, and soon their home. But what remains, the story of power, downfall, and fear, will follow them wherever they go. As their lives drift in separate directions, one thing is clear:
The fall from grace didn't end with the loss of titles or status. It continues quietly, in every whispered conversation and every headline that refuses to let them fade. And maybe that's the real story here, not just how two people fell from the highest ranks of privilege, but how they've been forced to live with what's left behind. Because sometimes the end of power isn't loud or public. Sometimes it's a whisper echoing through an empty house, a reminder that once the cameras turn away, the silence tells the rest of the story.